We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180 with our guest, Rudy Salas. So, Rudy, what's his name? Clay had asked you a question before the break.
Well, I had asked a question.
What's his name? I knew him well.
I had asked about the comments that were in the newspaper, but you know what? They were all negative comments, and I don't think Rudy needs to respond to those because he's doing a positive job with the city of Bakersfield. I'd like to move on and talk about Rudy, the person, because I really found some interesting stuff. I watched a video this morning before we came in about Rudy skydiving.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that
experience. I saw that.
Yeah, we went, it was my sister, myself, and my dad. We went for his 50th birthday out to Taft, and we decided to go skydiving. It was my sister's idea. Said, hey, Dad, you got to live life a little bit more. You know, you're kind of looking at the downslope of the hill now, so let's go skydiving. He said, you know what? If your brother comes and we all do it, we'll do it together. So we did. We went out there and we got the video package and put it up on YouTube for the family and I guess for Clay to find, and here we are. But very fun experience. Very fun.
You know, I mean, I really like Rudy. You know, we've had dinner with him, you know, twice now. But to start off with 50 years old being the downside of the equation, I'm not sure I like you anymore, Rudy.
Yeah.
Well, we could say that's looking on to greener pastures, right?
Yeah.
You know, one thing I did notice, at least it appeared during that whole skydiving episode, you kept your glasses on.
You know, I think I did keep them on.
He had to see where he was going to land.
Exactly.
I would think you'd lose them with all that air coming up.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. All that air pushes those glasses on you pretty firmly. I mean, anytime I was going to lose them was probably in the very beginning when we did like 3 somersaults or something.
You know, Clay, you wouldn't mind if I, interrupt this love affair and ask him some serious questions here. I mean, you know,
well, I really enjoyed the video. It was pretty interesting.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it again? Have you ever done it again?
No, I haven't done it again yet.
Do you plan on doing it again?
I plan on doing it. Maybe somewhere more exotic than Taft.
All right.
We can do balloon riding in Tehachapi.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, it's interesting. One of the segments we had a while back, I had to interrupt Marty because he got off on this love fest. So I'm going to let Marty take over and ask you some good questions.
Well, no. We only have 8 more minutes with the poor guys. So one thing I noticed is Ward 1 unfortunately has one of the worst crime rates in the city.
Correct.
Okay, what are we going to do about that? And I have to tell you, coincidentally, I have a home. One of my homes is in Ward 1, so that's another reason why I've got to be careful how I treat you on this show.
Oh, there you go.
So what do we do with the crime problem in that portion of the city?
Yeah, crime's a big issue. When I went out on the campaign trail, that was one of the, if not the number one issue, was everyone was worried about crime, and obviously about jobs. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to get people to get more involved. We're doing these Adopt a Neighborhood programs, which is kind of like Neighborhood Watch, but to the next level. So in addition to looking out and seeing any suspicious behavior, what we're also asking people to do is kind of adopt their neighborhood, take care of the kids that grow up there, take care of your neighbors, take care of the guy down the street or the lady down the street, and pick up trash, report graffiti. Right? We all know about the broken window theory. You know, you leave one yard unattended or you leave some broken windows unattended. All that does is invite more criminal activity. So we're really pushing this program now. We've done a couple of cleanups out in the area. We're starting to kick off the Adopt a Neighborhood program in a couple of areas already. But really it's trying to get people to take the initiative and the concern to really care about what's going on and to take that responsibility to say, look, this is where I live, this is where my kids are, and this neighborhood belongs to us. It doesn't belong to this criminal element. Sure. So, we're doing those things. The other thing that we did is we hired 17 police officers. Actually, they were hired with ERA funds. The ERA funding, as everyone knows, is starting to dry up. And because of the good sales taxing that we've been having at the city of Bakersfield, we've actually been able to keep those officers on board.
Okay, now that leads into my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Can't shake that cough this morning. The Republicans and the Democrats in Sacramento have a totally different plan. Okay, part of the Republican plan is to take that $2.5 billion that we ended up having that we didn't think we were going to have. It's not a surplus, but it's more money coming in than we thought. Due to some programs they were looking at, they're actually looking at taking that $2.5 billion and sending it back to the local communities. $500 billion of it was going to go to veterans groups and police officers, and the other $2 was going to go to education. My understanding, is that everybody at the city council has come on board with this, with the exception of you and one other city council person. My question is, why? Because this is kind of your issue in a way. You're looking
Correct.
at police and veterans groups and education.
Correct.
And here's this money that, we can spend on that.
Yeah.
Why haven't you jumped on board on that?
If it's as simple as you say it is, I'd definitely be on board.
Isn't everything in politics that simple?
I wish it was.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do. But no, I think I know which proposal you're referring to. And to be quite honest, I'm researching that still to look at it. Because the thing is like, how much money are they putting into CalGrip? How much are they diverting somewhere else? And the other part of that equation was the special election. Are we going to let the voters be able to vote on where they want this extra money? Does it go in a rainy day fund? Does it go to public safety? Does it go to veterans groups? Does it go to health and human services? And that's a bigger question that I'm sure you guys have probably talked about on a different show or.
Sure, but part of the special election is tax increases, and we've already said no with that. So, we're going to go back and try to revisit it and try to get people to go along for a tax increase that they've already said no to. Yeah,
that's true. I was looking at, was it the Public Policy Institute for California had a survey that came out this morning that said, depending on how you ask the question, right? So do you want cuts in education and do you want cuts in government services? The answer is no. Right. But when you ask the question, are you willing to pay for it in terms of tax increases? The answer is no. Okay. So you have these mixed signals, and I think that's why you see, the partisan politics. You see the Democrats saying like, no, people don't want these cuts. And then you have, Republicans saying, well, no, they don't want taxes. And the numbers are actually like 46% and 48% either way. So, I mean, they're really close. But, the thing is like we got to give people, for me anyways, I think we got to let people have the final say and let them have a voice. Sure. If we put it on the ballot and they say no, then great. That's more of a mandate, I think, to go through and say, okay, look, we're going to have some of these cuts now because nobody wanted to vote for these tax increases or extensions or whatever you want to call them. But at least there's a mandate there, and there's a clear direction from the voters that says this is the path that we need to go on. Yeah.
If you would, though, take a look at it from a nonpartisan point of view, if you can, because I know, and it's tough, because we're talking about elected offices, even though they're nonpartisan, we all know how it works. But, this is money that we have that we can provide for those services. And you're right, it depends on how it's done. I totally agree. So,
but that's where they say the devil's in the details,
exactly.
Right?
I don't think it really matters how the voters do or what the voters say, because some judge is going to come and overturn it anyway, and everything we voted on and approved.
Yeah, that's so frustrating. It's very frustrating when the voters say this is our will, and then you have a judge come in and just say, I'm sorry, we're just going to trump you. We saw that last week with the prisoners.
Yes. The other thing I was curious about is these are decisions that should be made by politicians. Why are we going to turn everything back to the voters? That's what you're hired to do, is make decisions.
Yeah, that's very true. Politicians are supposed to make the tough choices, but at the same time, too, when you look at the approval ratings for, let's say, Sacramento, right, and they're in the teens at best. Do you really want to leave it up to somebody that's got a 12% approval rating overall? Or do you trust yourself a little bit more to make the right decision at the ballot box? I think for the bigger policy questions like tax extensions, tax increases, the voters should have a voice. But for the other things that the legislature does, like when we say, okay, we do have this pot of money, how much are we going to give to, say, the CalGrip program to hire more officers out on the streets, then that's something that they can do.
We're having a conversation with Libertarian Rudy Salas. City Councilman.
Oh man, trying to classify me already.
You talk about the approval rating being in the teens, yet every I think elected official is a Democrat.
No. In California.
Well, the Democrats have the majority in Sacramento, but not every single one of them are.
Oh, I'm not talking about the Senate or the Assembly people or the Senate. I'm talking about the governor, the treasurer, the Secretary of State,
the constitutional officers.
Yes. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
But everyone is elected as a Democrat, yet the approval ratings in the teens.
Correct.
I don't understand that.
Well, here's a funny thing too. Is when you ask how is the state government doing overall, those approval ratings are really low. But when you go out to Orange County or you go to LA County or go here to Kern County and you ask, how is your representative doing? The numbers are actually a lot better.
Yeah.
So it's really curious and kind of hard to read these tea leaves.
Do you know in the state of California, in the Assembly and the Senate, that the Republicans are 2 votes away from being unnecessary? Because if they lose 2 seats, it'll be a 2/3 majority for the Democrats.
And they can do anything they want.
They can do anything they want, which means welfare, unemployment, food stamps, and all the programs are going to increase, which I think we can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be fiscally responsible, and I think there's enough moderate Democrats, or they call them business-centric Democrats, that look at those things. And I mean, I agree with you. You have to look at the fiscal impacts of everything. You can't just say, look, we'd love to give away the store, and you don't have anything in the store.
Sure. Rudy, unfortunately, that's our time's over, and I want to thank you for one thing, though, and we'll talk about it next time, is your Kids Free Safety Academy. I thought that was a dynamite idea, but next time we'll talk about that, okay?
Yeah, we had a great time last week.
Yeah, let's have you back. We'll be back in a minute on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.